this time I have a review for Macphun Creative Kit 2016. I reviewed a couple of their programs before. I've reviewed Noiseless Pro, which comes in this bundle called Creative Kit, and I've reviewed that separately, and it's kind of a tutorial and review, so if you're interested in Noiseless, you might want to watch that one separately. And I've also reviewed Aurora HDR Pro, which does not come in this bundle. It's their latest flagship app. So at the moment, it's not in the bundle. Maybe it'll be in the 2017 one. And that is for doing HDR photography, such as merge and 3 exposures, that sort of thing. If you're interested in that, I have a separate video for it, but you need to be aware that it is a separate program from this bundle that you'd have to buy separately. So if you're buying this one, you'd need to buy that as well. The Creative Kit is 6 powerful photography apps made by Macphun. You can buy these in 3 different ways. You can buy it in this bundle, which is all their Pro apps apart from Aurora. This is all the Pro versions. So if it has CK in it, it's the Pro one. So basically Intensify Pro. And you can buy a standard version, but the standard version is cheaper and it is on the Mac App Store, but the cheaper ones don't have raw file format support and a few other little tweaks like that. So I wouldn't really recommend the standard versions because I don't know about you, but I at least would want raw support, and that is only in the CK or Pro versions. Or you can buy this bundle, which is all the Pro versions apart from Aurora at a discounted price in a bundle. Or you can buy each of these different Pro versions independently outside of the bundle. So you don't have to buy this bundle and buy them all. If you only want Intensify, or you only want Snapheal, or you only want Noiseless, you can get that separately, just each individual one. There's a free trial available, and I always recommend to my viewers that you try out a trial. Even if you like what you see in this review, I recommend you at least try it out for yourself first. So it comes Intensify, Tonality, Snapheal, FX Photo Studio, Focus, and Noiseless Pro. Now, Intensify is basically to bring out the details in your pictures and really boost the image and really make it look sharp, so it can take a very plain picture and make it look very professional. Tonality is a really good app for making your photos black and white, or if your photos are always black and white, you can change the settings and alter them a little bit. Snapheal is a great program for using a brush and basically drawing over an area such as a bin or a person walking a dog or whatever in your photo and deleting it and having it intelligently replace where that person was to make it look like they were never there. I'll show it to you in a minute. FX Photo Studio is one I personally wouldn't use very much myself. It's basically like kind of like iPhoto or Apple Photos, but it doesn't have the library sort of feature. It's not really like that. It's more of the editing side. But if you are coming from iPhoto or Photos, but you want more editing capability, then maybe check out FX Photo Studio CK. It's similar type of program, similar interface, similar way of doing things, but it's a lot more to it and more effects, etc. And then we have Focus Pro or Focus CK, and that is to change the focus of your image, maybe add a focus effect that wasn't there before. So for example, say you have taken a portrait picture of somebody and you have them in focus and you have the background in focus when you originally took the photo, but you then want to blur the background and just have that person in focus or something like that. You can do that with focus, and it basically you can refocus and get various professional lens effects with an already shot photo, which is very good. Noiseless Pro is probably it is my favorite program in this whole bundle. It is for noise reduction, so often you have a little bit of noise in your image, which is that kind of grain, and especially if it's a low light image or photo at night, whatever. What I like about Noiseless is not only does it have a very advanced algorithm for noise removal, and it will remove a lot of noise while leaving the picture remaining very sharp and good quality. It also will do it quite intelligently. So basically you open a photo file, and it will try to detect the best settings to use. So if you're not really sure, like I'm not when I do noise reduction, never quite sure if I got the right balance, then normally 9 times out of 10, its default settings that it auto detects will work. Just sometimes you may want to add a bit more noise reduction, or maybe don't even need to use quite so much. But 9 times out of 10, its automatic settings when you first open the image will do fine. That's what I really like about it. So this is the website. So we'll just have a quick look, scroll down, and then we'll look at the programs properly. Intensify, reveal the hidden beauty of your photos, get instant results with dozens of pro presets, or use powerful structure, sharpness, detail, and pro contrast enhancements. So that's a good example here of what that it's capable of. And here you can see nice black and white image, various black and white images, and you can do sepia effects, things like that as well. Snapheal, as you can see, you have people in this image and we can remove them by painting over them with our brush, and it looks like a nice landscape picture without any people in it, yet they were actually there in the original photo. FX Studio, experiment with styles and looks, use the multitude of studio filters to create customized images, choose from over 200 effects, combine and apply them selectively with the most handy Mac photo editor in the kit. And focus. Oh, focus I didn't mention, but I was going to later anyway. Not only does it do blur controls and powerful lens effects, one thing you can do, which is probably what a lot of people go like, is this, the tilt shift effect. And Noiseless I've told you about, and I've also reviewed it separately anyway, so I won't go into that. You can also buy a pro photography video training series from this company as well. Supercharged with great tools for all your photo editing needs. You got native support for lots of image formats, including RAW file format, over 400 one-click presets and filters, advanced RAW support and processing, automatic noise recognition and repair, robust object removal and spot healing, proprietary detail enhancement, halo-free micro sharpening, adjustable clone and stamp tool, custom controls to different tonal ranges, pro contrast controls, and let's hit more. Layers with blending modes, over 500 textures, frames and borders, built-in or custom textures, and there's lots and lots more here, including plugin support for Lightroom and Photoshop and Aperture and Photos. It costs about £90, and at the moment there's a bonus app included, so you get these plus this screen capture and screen recording program, which is made by another company, which is what I'm using at the moment. I didn't get it in the bundle. I already had it because I reviewed it previously, and it is on my YouTube channel. And it might be a different app though when you buy this, because it seems like it probably changes each month. There's a starter edition which just has Snapheal, Intensify, and Studio. But I would probably recommend this, and this is the most popular bundle, the one with all of them. The premium kit is just the same thing, just it has a pro video training series about photography. And let's take a look. When you install it, it installs into applications, and there's a folder called Creative Kit 2016. You then have Focus CK and the various apps here, plus an uninstaller, which is handy. So let's take a look at Focus. We can load a photo. Okay, so I've just opened an image into Focus CK, and it is a RAW file format from a Sony A57 DOSR. We have portrait. You're not really going to see much here because this isn't a portrait. Then you'd get various sliders here for the amount, vignette, highlights, saturation, the motion, amount and twist, in focus, the brightness, the sharpness, the contrast, the vividness, compare, to compare the two, before and afters. Let's just undo that. Now let's have a look at nature. Now nature is probably going to suit this one a bit better. Now we have all those sort of sliders I've just shown you, plus we can adjust this, we can move it up, we can move it down, we can spin it, and move this around here. So, and we can also enlarge these various bits here or make them smaller. Now let's just click off, and there you go. And if we hit compare, that is the difference. Now I'm actually going to undo that a minute because I want to take a look at some of the other tools and options here. This isn't a full review for focus. I'll probably make a separate tutorial and review video just for focus because this is for the whole kit and there's a lot to get in. Here's architecture. Similar options, but this is now vertical instead of horizontal. We then have micro, and we can move this around and focus on the tree. As you can see now, if we compare it before, after, it's focused more on the tree area. We'd probably want to adjust this because we probably want it more on the tree like this. Now if we see, that's actually pretty good. That is so quick. That just took a few seconds to blur out the background, highlight just the tree. Of course, it's not perfect here because maybe we won't want some of this background, which is still left in, but you can always do custom. I'll show you that in a minute. Now, tilt shift. It won't probably look very good on this photo. No, this photo doesn't really work very well for tilt shift, but you're probably aware of what tilt shift is. We can then go to custom. And as you can see, it's basically blurred the whole image. Now we have a brush on our pointer. We can change the diameter, we can change the hardness and change the brush size here. But let's just leave it at default. And let's just paint in this tree red with our brush. Okay, not a very precise job, but if we remove our brush out of the way, you can see the tree is in focus and nothing else, which is really good. Of course, I've gone over some of the edges here and it's made some of the background show through, so we can use the erase. We probably want to change our brush size though, but I just gotta, there we go. You see what I mean? You can use the erase. If you go over an edge and select too much, you can use the erase to remove some of the mask. And that is about it for that. We can also do a crop, and we can do horizontal crop. We can do original proportion. So we can have landscape 4:3, widescreen 16:9, square 1:1, portrait 3:4. You're probably mostly going to be using one of these three: wide, landscape, or portrait. Probably either portrait or landscape the most. I mean, portrait or wide the most. So if we wanted to crop this to portrait and just sort of select the tree, we can. We can do it something like that. Then we can hit apply, and then there's our crop. Once we finish, we can hit share, and we can save it as an image. So we can give it a file name and save it either as a JPEG, JPEG 2000, PNG, TIFF, Photoshop document, or a focus document, so we can reopen it in focus and make changes to it. If we save it as a JPEG, it will be saved completely flat with all the changes. We won't be able to really edit it again. With focus, we can open it in focus again and make changes. We can resize for the web here or not. Let's just cancel that. We can also, under share, send it to the other programs in the kit, which is a good thing about having the Creative Kit. We can, if we want to start in focus, we could refocus it. We could then send it to something like Tonality and make it a good black and white image. We could send it to Intensify and boost the details. Or we could go and remove an object such as this person or the bin, and then we could remove noise reduction. But what I would normally do, I wouldn't do it this way around. I'd normally perhaps open it in Intensify, do most of the changes, then I would perhaps open it in Snapheal to remove any people out of the way. Then as a final step, send it to Noiseless to do the noise reduction last thing. I would always do Noiseless last. We could also then send it, if we wanted to email it to somebody, send it in an instant message, send it on Twitter or Facebook or Flickr or SmugMug. So let's actually do that. Let's actually send it to a program instead of opening it from the applications folder. Let's send it to Snapheal rendering. It is now closed. It has now closed the other program and reopened that image with all our changes in Snapheal. Now, Snapheal allows us to remove objects such as this person or the bin if we don't want that, and I don't particularly. We can also crop from here, but we've already done that, so I'm not going to do that. We can view 100%, zoom in, zoom out, view the whole image. We can compare. There is nothing to compare at the moment because we haven't made any changes. So let's select our brush size. We'll select a brush size. This is looking way too big. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Use the hand tool to move. Okay, maybe zoom in a little bit more. I want to remove that person, his dog, and the bin. So let's find a reasonable size here. Okay, let's just try it with this size and see what happens. It's probably too big, the brush. Now we have it selected. We can erase some if we've selected too much. Let's do that. And the brush is too small. I need to make it a little bit bigger. And we can remove some of the extra if we have selected too much. Once we've done that, what I'm going to do next is then hit erase. We have a few different modes, and I'll make a video for Snapheal separately, which will be a bit of a basic tutorial and review. So I'm not going to go into all the details, but there's different modes to get slightly different results. We've got precision. Do you want on normal precision? I'll just do that for now. You can have higher, highest, and basically the higher the setting, the longer it'll take to perform the task, but the more precise and accurate and good the end result will be. But let's just have it on normal, see how that works. There we go, that's pretty good. As you can see, the border isn't very good. It's a decent end result, but it isn't perfect, so I'm going to undo that. I'm actually going to select again. I'm actually going to select this again, and I'm going to try higher precision in some different modes a minute, and I'll probably cut away and come back in just a second. Now that is with dynamic and highest. It's still not perfect, but it's a better result, I personally feel, than the last one. Okay, now that is the best result so far. It will depend upon what you're erasing, but I used local and highest, and that's done a decent job, especially if we zoom out. Now, of course, we could do it a bit differently. Like a good tip would be to maybe not select as much as I did. Maybe just select the man and his dog first, erase, then select the bin, erase, and you might get better results if you do pieces at a time rather than too much in one go. But still, as you can see, it's done a really good result, really good end product here, even though we have been very quick and not very precise, and we just quickly selected quite a lot. So that is how Snapheal works. There's also a retouch mode with lots and lots of options here, masking modes here as well, and adjust. And under adjust, we have some more things like sharpen, denoise from here. Then once we got it the way we want it, we can go here and send it to something like noiseless. So let's do that. As you can see, there's not much noise in this because it's taken on a nice bright day with a good camera. So you won't see much difference here. It's zoomed at 200%. But it automatically, when we loaded the image, selected one it thought was best for us, and it selected Light Pro. So as you can see, it knew there wasn't much, so it selected not the lightest, but the second lightest. There's also moderate, medium, intense, strong, strongest, extreme, balanced, soft. You could add more presets and custom presets and add ones to favorites. There's also compare here to look at before and after. Different sort of options for viewing side by side, etc., things like that. Now under adjust, we can also really get down to nitty gritty here and do noise reduction, amount, softness under color, luminance, various settings for that, and smoothing, structure, amount, radius, protection, details, amount, protection, masking, filters, overall apparency. And there's just lots and lots of options here, but I find 9 times out of 10 you'll load the image, it'll take a look at the image, find out what it thinks is the best one, and apply it. And you can just then go and save it as your final image. or you could of course send it to another program. Normally the way I work with my workflow is I open the image initially in something like Aurora HDR or Tonality or to Intensify, do the most of the adjustments, then send to Noiseless as the very last option to remove the noise, then save the final image. Now we've had a look at the basic workflow of opening it from one thing, changing it, then maybe sending it to Snapheal to remove any objects, then sending it to Noiseless to do the final noise reduction. So, but let's just close this and have a look at the other ones. So we have Photo Studio, Intensify, and Noiseless. Okay, let's open Intensify, and I think that's probably the one you've got to start with the most, unless you're using Aurora, which isn't included in the kit. Okay, so we have a very flat looking image here. It's not a bad image, but it looks a little dull. There isn't much brightness and detail. Well, we can create layers like in Photoshop, so we can combine and merge different effects by using layers like you can in Photoshop or Lightroom. Now let's have a look and look at some of these presets. And the presets, we can add them to favorites, create our own, or look at default, which is the ones that come with the program. We have architectural detail, which looks actually quite interesting. Look how it brought out the sky, although it looks a bit grainy now, so we might have to open it in Noiseless. But it still hasn't got quite a punch, because let's face it, it's for architecture, which is not what this image is. So let's look at something else. Let's kind of scroll through. There's some black and white ones, but if you're doing black and white, I'd probably recommend using Tonality, which is included in the kit instead, because it's sort of a dedicated app for that type of thing. Let's have a look here at maybe autumn morning. Interesting. And you know, I might actually like use this one here on this layer because I like this, quite like the sky, and I might use a new layer then use the paintbrush to mask out this bottom. And you can't see the brush by default, but if we go to show, we can then see in red where the mask is. So now we have this bottom bit here masked. So what we can then do is then apply a different preset to this masked area. So we could use something like, let's just turn the mask off now so we can see what we're doing. Let's do something like Dreamy. Now, as you can see, because we have the sky on the bottom layer, then on the first layer at the top, we have the bottom highlighted with a mask and not the sky. When we applied Dreamy, it added that dreamy effect to the bottom half, but not to the top bit because that wasn't included in the mask. So it's just applying that to that particular preset now to the bottom half. Now, what if we wanted to do it the other way around? We could go to the bottom one and we could select a different one. But if we select a different one, there is no mask on layer 0. So if we apply a new one to the first original layer we had, it's going to apply it to the whole thing. Because we haven't got the sky mask, there's no mask on this layer. It's only on the other layer that we have the bottom half mask. So what we could do is we could do autumn again. We could then create a new layer. Then on layer 2, we could make a mask. In fact, I want to see that to see what I'm doing. It's a terrible mask because I'm going right over, but it's just for review, so it doesn't matter. So then if we go here to say HDR Vivid, then pretty much just the sky is selected, not the bottom half, because the bottom half is being affected by Dreamy because the mask is on the bottom half. Top half has a mask with Vivid in. So you can really apply lots and lots of different presets to different areas of the image using a mask. It's very powerful. So then we can get the image how we want it. So we want it like this. I don't actually really like what we've done here, but let's just say that's what we're going for, a bit of a grungy, surreal kind of look. We could then use a erase tool to delete some of the mask if it's overlapping, like we can in some of the other programs. We can compare the two images before and after. There we go, there's before, there's after, so it's a good way to compare them. You don't have to view it that way. You can use this button here, hold it down to see the before, let it go to see the after. And there you go. Then once we've done that, we can then send it either to another program such as Snapless to remove the man and his dog in the bin, or you can send it to Noiseless to do noise reduction, which it looks like we might have to do a bit on this guy now we've messed with the presets, or we can save it as a final image. I would probably, with this image, once I got the effect how I'd like it, I would probably send it to Snapheal, remove the guy, the dog, and the bin, because I think it's a bit out of place. I don't really want it there. Then I would send it to Noiseless to do any noise reduction, then save it as a final JPEG. Now, before I look at a couple of the other programs, from the menu here on any of these programs, you can check for an update. As you can see, we're using the latest version of this software. We can install plugins because these programs work as plugins for Photoshop or Lightroom or Aperture or Photoshop Elements or Apple Photos. Now, Apple Photos isn't in this list. It sort of does it itself. You don't have to hit install here. But if we had Photoshop installed or Lightroom, which I don't, if you did, it would detect them, detect where they're installed here when you open this box. Then we'd hit install and it'd probably ask for a system password, then it install it. Then basically, if we're using Lightroom, we could select a photo, right click and say send to Intensify or send to Snapheal or send to Noiseless, which is quite handy. So it can be used either, these programs can be used either as standalone applications or they can be used as plugins for some of these other programs. It also will work in Apple Photos. Let's close this. Let's have a look at Tonality, which, like I say, is primarily for creating really good, really high quality black and white photos. Now we have a plugin preset drop down here. Now these presets, if you have used Aurora HDR Pro, which is a new program for doing HDR image work, and it's their new flagship app, it is really brilliant. I've reviewed it previously, so if you want to know more about it, check out my review on my YouTube channel. It has the same sort of interface here. You select a different category of presets here, such as basic or portrait, dynamic, dramatic, outdoor, or whatever. Then from down here, there's a long list, so we can say, okay, let's look at this dream one. Okay, I kind of like that, kind of don't. We can also do the same thing as in Intensify. We can create a layer, so we could say even make the sky, mask out the sky on one layer, make it black and white, then mask out the foreground here on a new layer and maybe make it blue instead of having a blue sky or whatever. You know, we can sort of mix and match effects and presets using layers. We can apply one preset to, say, the tree, a different preset or settings to the grass or the sky, and we can use different presets in different areas of the image, just like Intensify. It's very, very powerful. Anyway, we can look through here. We can select one we quite like. We can lower its intensity, raise its intensity, and we can create our own preset. So what we do with that is we would adjust all the image how we wanted it, get all our effect how we want it as a preset, and once we had gotten our effect how we like it, we could hit create and make our own preset that we could apply, have down here, and then apply it to new images. So that's quite powerful as well. And there's lots of settings in Tonality. You've got things for temperature and tint. You've got things for exposure, standard, adaptive. We have contrast settings. We have clarity and structure. A lot of this stuff is also in Aurora HDR. We have various color filters, which is quite powerful, and a tonal curve, split toning. We have shadows, glow. We have lens blur, and we can place a center for that. We can apply a texture overlay to the image. We can add a vignette, grain, actually a frame to the image. And there's just so much here we can do, including brushes. So we can do what we did in Intensify and brush out the sky and apply different settings to the sky, use a new layer, brush out the foreground or the tree, add a different setting there. We can compare from here, side by side, or using this button here. We've got all our various settings here, and once we got it how we want it, like in all the other programs, we can hit send it to Snapheal to remove, say, the man and his bin, or we can send it to Noiseless to do the final noise reduction and save it, or whatever. It's very powerful. So if you want, you can also, of course, check for an update from there and do our plugins as well. So basically, what you would want to do is you'd want to find the best preset you could, say this one or whatever, then adjust your settings a bit from here, and you'll have a good black and white photograph. What's good about the Creative Kit is if you are familiar with one of their program's interface, such as Aurora, you'll then be comfortable with things like Noiseless or Snapheal, as they all have a very similar interface and same sort of way of working. So once you're familiar, say, with using noise reduction and Noiseless, if maybe that's the only program theirs you use, then you later on decide you go in to do more HDR work and you buy Aurora, then you've got to be familiar with the general way the interface works and way it looks and where to find stuff. Okay, and the final one to check out is the Photo Studio, the one I wouldn't use on a regular basis. It's mostly just for a basic sort of photo editor like iPhoto. I would mostly use these ones and occasionally this one and rarely this one, but still that's a good deal. 4 to 5 apps that you go use quite often in a bundle, and this one maybe you'll find you're using it all the time. I don't personally find I would use that one much. And one thing I think is worth mentioning is that Photo Studio is actually available for iOS as well. It's not just on Mac. It is available from the App Store for iPhone and iPad, or unlike the other Pro ones, this is available on the Mac App Store. You can get the standard versions, Intensify, Noiseless, Snapheal, and Tonality from the Mac App Store, but not the CK or Pro versions. But you can get both versions of Photo Studio on the Mac App Store. And of course, you can't get the Creative Bundle as a pack on the Mac App Store either. You have to get it directly from their website. Now, this is a similar interface as we've seen before. There doesn't seem to be layers, however. But you can go to Effects and we can apply effect. Now, the one I like, which isn't in the other programs I've noticed, is the very first one here, 3D Effect. And it allows us to make an anaglyph 3D image. So we can use basically the paintbrush here, select the amount, edit mask. So we hit edit mask. And we paint onto the image. You might already see it's going green and red, like those old 3D glasses. It's not really working particularly great on this image. It mostly is working on the bee, but it's actually quite good. You mask around the image you want to make into a 3D anaglyph image, which is when you have those green and pink or green and red glasses, and you wear them, and you can get them really cheap just for a few pence, and you can look at your image 3D. And as you can see, it's pretty hard to tell in this video, but if you look, there is a pink and green edge there. There is on the bee as well. We can basically, it works like a mask. You mask around what you want to make 3D, then you can erase bits of the mask. If you go over the edge, you can show the mask using this button as well. So there you can go. That's what I've sort of masked out here. We can hide the mask. We can invert the mask or clear the mask from here, change its softness, opacity, and diameters, and brush size from here as well. And I'm just going to cancel that. So that is effect I particularly like in Photo Studio's a 3D effect. Now let's have a look at what some of the others are. Okay, we have various things like age to make it look a bit like age paper. Various things here. Some of these effects you might actually find are similar in some of the other programs like Intensify. There's even a few kind of black and white looking ones, various ones like vivid, burnt colors, charcoal sketch. Let's actually apply that. All sorts of sort of effects here. What you would do, you'd find one that's a good starting point, like say this one. You would then go to adjust and adjust the settings further. Of course, you'd want to apply it first. Apply it, then it will process. Then once we've applied it, we can then go to adjust its temperature, make it a bit more kind of orangey or a bit more blue to make it seem a bit more cold. We can do the saturation, we can boost the saturation a bit. In fact, let's put that a bit more in the middle. We can do the hue, we can do exposure, brightness, contrast, shadows, highlights, sharpen, so we can make it a bit of a sharper image. We can do the reds, the blues, the greens, we can reset it, we can edit a mask to mask out an area, such as say, we can mask out just the B and apply a different temperature and saturation to just the B or whatever, then we can hit apply. Then we can apply a crop if we wanted to, so we can adjust a crop on the image. So maybe we want to do something like that. I don't know why, but let's just do it and hit apply. Then we've cropped our image. Then as a final step, we could then send it to something like Snapheal to remove an object, or Noiseless to remove noise and save the final image like we can in all the other programs. A couple other features I'll show you quickly here in Photo Studio is we have various categories we can look at for our effects and presets, such as blur, or we can view them all. And we have a random button, which is interesting. We hit random, it'll randomly select one of the presets for you. Let's cancel that. I'll show you again. Hit that button with the dice, and it's randomly selected another one. We can then go to frames, and we can actually apply a border to the image, so we can have a little photo frame effect around the image. There we go, we have a little photo frame effect around the image now, and there's various other ones. Then presets here for any others, like add a preset, so you can, and you do any various adjustments and stuff, and maybe find a sort of a style or effect that you think you're going to want to use on a regular basis but isn't already a preset in the program. You can hit add preset, so then it will save a preset that you can reuse again in the future. Photo Studio CX also is available as a plugin for your programs such as Photoshop, Photoshop Elements, Lightroom, and Aperture. So we can close out of that. Okay, so the Creative Kit comes in two main versions. There's Starter, which only has the Snapheal for removing objects, Intensify, which is probably the very main programmer of the lot, and Photo Studio. I would recommend you go a little bit further and get the complete kit, which is the most popular one, because even though I consider Intensify to be the main program, the main three programs are Intensify, Snapheal, and Noiseless, because you're going to want to do most of your sort of image boosting and Intensify. Then you're going to want to at least send it to Noiseless to remove any little bit of grain and noise and save your final image. And quite often you're probably going to want to use Snapheal to remove various little things like bins or people. And unfortunately, the starter one has Snapheal and Intensify, but not Noiseless. So I recommend you go to that at least to have Snapheal, Noiseless, and Intensify. Plus, you then have, if you want to do some black and white photos occasionally, you have Tonality. You need to refocus or blur a background, etc. You have Focus then. This is the only one I personally wouldn't really use much, if ever, is the FX Studio, but that depends upon you, of course. And depending upon when you get it, you may get a bonus app by somebody else like Voila, which is actually what I'm using now to record. Then if you want their pro video training, which isn't just for using this program, it's, about how to use your camera settings, things like that, then there is a premium, which includes everything in this normal kit, plus a video training series. The standard edition of these apps, such as Snapheal, Intensify, and Tonality, are available from the Mac App Store. The Pro ones are available from Macphun Software's website. individually or in this Creative Kit bundle. Basically, I'll put a link in the description along with this video, but basically the website is macphun.com/Creative Kit. And I also put a link in the description to my individual review that covers just Noiseless Pro, and it's not just a review, it's also a very sort of standard tutorial, and it's quite long. And I'll include a link to the video, which is a review and tutorial for Aurora HDR Pro, also made by this company. I also in the future be doing at least a separate video covering Snapheal and maybe Intensify and Tonality, and maybe Focus as well, but definitely I'll do one for Snapheal soon. So if you have any questions, just leave a comment on this video. If you have any questions about the program or Aurora HDR or where to get it, although the link will be in the description, whatever, if you have any questions about it at all, just leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you. Please like and comment on this video, and if you could do me a huge favor and subscribe, because it only takes a few seconds to subscribe to my YouTube channel and will help me out a lot. Thanks for watching.